Today, I'm going to give you the best Polyend Tracker song mode tip.
Freebie.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat. Today's patron shoutout goes to Frederick DN. Thank you so very much for the support. Let's get started. So today, like the title says, I'm going to give you a tip for the Polyend Tracker's song mode that I think is just the straight up best tip, at least that I've ever gotten. And a shout out to Galactic Tapes for sharing this tip with me. This has to do, I think, with an update that came out that I was just kind of unaware of. I actually never used this tip on the original Polyend Tracker, but as far as I know, it does work there, and then of course it works on the Mini and on the Plus. This tip is essentially going to show you how to create variations of patterns much more easily than the long roundabout method of doing it. So I've got a pattern queued up here. It is 32 steps long. As you can see, I've named each of the 4 tracks that we're going to be using just for simplicity. Real simple pattern, right? So let's say I want to make a variation of this, maybe add in a drum fill or something at the end of it. On the tracker, I typically like to work in patterns of 32 steps or 64. I don't like going to 128 because it's too much information to, try to scroll through or go through with the arrows in one setting. I like to use multiple instances of shorter patterns. So if I want to add a snare drum fill, say the second time through this pattern, I need a new pattern. Now, before I learned this tip, to access a new pattern, I would simply tab over to the copy pattern page here. I'd go copy pattern, then I'd tab back to pattern, go to pattern 2, and then I'd go to paste pattern, and then I'd have a copy of pattern 1, but in pattern 2 slot, and then I'd go in and add my snare drum fill. But there's a much better way to do this. So I clicked undo. We've now got pattern 2 empty, and pattern 1 is back to what we had. So if we go to song mode, we are now greeted with our one pattern here. As you can see, we've got one pattern. It's pattern number 1, and we've got our kick, snare, hat, and bass. In fact, just to make this simpler, I'm going to actually name our pattern here. We will name this, how about just groove? There we go. So now we have groove. So pattern 1 is groove. So normally what you would do in song mode to add a new pattern is you'd turn on record mode and then hit add slot. And then you could use these 2 buttons to toggle between any of your patterns here and choose the one that you want, and that's how you'd build your song. You just keep going like that, right? Now that's great and all, but you still would have to go back into pattern mode and copy and paste everything over if you wanted to have a truly unique second variation, because right now, this pattern here is the exact same as pattern 1. If I make a change to pattern 1, it's going to play the same pattern with the change twice. So I'm going to delete this slot. Now, here's the tip. Simply hold down Shift and click Add Empty Slot. Okay? Now, no matter where you are, it will automatically add another slot, and it will pick the next available empty pattern. But here's where things get interesting, and I haven't really seen anybody talk about this. If you use the arrows from here, you can actually copy elements from your existing patterns per track and paste them into a new pattern. And yes, this also works with Shift and Select. So you can Shift select all of those, hit copy, come down here, paste them in. And now, just like that, we have a second pattern that right now is just an identical copy of the first one, but it is its own unique pattern. So if we go to pattern mode here and move to pattern 2, we'll see all the information is here, but we are free to change it. And this might actually seem more complicated than doing the copy pattern, go to the next pattern, paste pattern thing. But I promise you, once you get used to going back and forth between pattern and song mode, it is much faster, and it's also much more flexible, because if you'd like, you can just pick and choose little pieces from each pattern that you want. It just makes it so much easier. So let's add a snare drum fill at the end here. We'll just go right here and then just like that. So the second measure. And let's name pattern 2 really quick. We'll call it groove fill, or let's just call it fill. There we go. If we go to song mode, we'll see we've got groove and fill. Now let's expand on this fill again by making another empty pattern. So Shift, add empty slot. Now check this out. I don't actually have to scroll over to the tracks themselves if I want to copy the entire pattern. I can simply highlight it, right there, and it copies the pattern's tracks over while still keeping it a new pattern. So if we come down here, pattern 3, we can now name this one fill 2. How about that? Okay, now we've got fill 2, and we can see, if we scroll down to the bottom, there's our snare drum. Let's just put an effect right here. Let's do a roll. There we go. Fill 2, right there. Let's do that again. Add empty slot. Copy. Paste. Pattern. See how fast this gets? Now we're ready to add something else here. Let's put, tell you what, our kick track is empty right here. We'll put some like pitched kicks. And I'll add some rolls on those as well. There we go. And just for the sake of the video, let's name it fill 4. How about that? Also, the shortcut to add a blank pattern at the end of your song is just a great way to end the song too, because it's blank, so it gives you some time to actually stop. Let's have a listen to our tiny little 4-pattern song here. There you go. I'm also just realizing I named that fill 4 instead of fill 3. I'm not sure why I did that. But yeah, this also, of course, works for anything melodic, too. They're all just unique individual patterns. So there you go. That's by far the most powerful tip I know for song mode on the Polyend Tracker. Again, shout out to Galactic Tapes for giving me that one. It really just kind of blew song mode wide open for me and really sped up my workflow in terms of writing and arranging full pieces of music. Because if you're not aware, full songs typically have a lot of variations of similar patterns. So the ability to come in, just copy, paste it, and then go into that pattern and start editing, working on a variation. It's so powerful and it's so fast once you get a little bit of practice under your belt. If you have any questions, please let me know in a comment down below. I do hope you found this video informative or at least entertaining. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it. If not, you can always leave a dislike. Doesn't hurt my feelings. Just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you all so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.